Welcome to Equipping and Building. I'm your host, Tariq Khan. Though Islam has a set of core beliefs and practices, there are various expressions across the Muslim landscape. What I'd like to do is focus on 5 of those. Those 5 are the difference between Sunni and Shia, about Sharia, Jihad, the relationship with Christians, and treatment of people who leave Islam, apostates. What I want to do first is to let you know this is not going to be putting Islam down. I was a Muslim about 45 years ago. I've become a Christian, and I want to be respectful and truthful about what I'm talking about, and that's what I intend to do. Islam means submission to God. Muslims have a great desire to follow God and do what he says and follow his commands and practices. There are some basic beliefs. I'm not going to go into these in great depth. First is God, and he's one. There's no other, and nobody can be born of him. There's angels that help man. There's the book, the Quran. There's prophets, predestination, resurrection, and judgment. Practices, or what are known as the pillars of Islam, are the Shahada, which means the statement of faith, prayer. There's fasting during Ramadan, and once in a lifetime going on a pilgrimage to Mecca if you can. The biggest sin in Islam is associating something with God to worship. That means trying to put somebody who's a prophet as one who is God, and that's their belief, not mine. And that's called shirk. The goal of Muslims is to follow God and to eventually have peace. There are some differences, and I'd mentioned jihad before. I'm not talking about the internal one. I'm going to talk about the external, the fighting. There are some differences that I'd mentioned. The difference between Sunni and Shia is quite stark. The Muslim population is about 2 billion. That's according to Pew Research about 2020. There are 57 countries with a lot of Muslims in them, 49 of those being Muslim majority. The largest countries include Indonesia, Pakistan, believe it or not, India. There's still a lot of Muslims there, even though many of them moved to Pakistan, and also Bangladesh. The differences that we talked about, those 5, often cause conflict. Some of them are political reasons, sometimes even geopolitical. They want land or they want power. But oftentimes they are religious, and even the geopolitical ones often have a strong religious either undertone or overtone. And the Sunni Muslims oftentimes, fight with non-Muslim sects. Ismaili and Ahmadiyya sects consider themselves Muslim, but the majority of Muslims say you can't be because you're adding a prophet after Muhammad, which is not permitted in the Quran. Now, that brings up an interesting difference with Sunni and Shia. The concept of a 12er is that the 12th Imam is the Mahdi, and he is going to come at the end of time, and he's going to make everything right. Now, many 12ers, they believe there are 12 of those prophets, the most important ones. And many of them believe that there is one that is occulted or hidden by God. He's alive now, but won't be revealed until the right time. Some Sunni Muslims look at that as a perversion of Islam, and hence the fighting. The other big difference is the caliphate. The caliphs are the 4 first leaders of Islam. The one the Sunni say came first was Abu Bakr, and the Shia say no, it was Ali, who was one of the descendants of Muhammad, and they say that the caliphate and leadership really is by succession in birth, not succession in terms of being voted to be that way by acclaim. The Sunni population is about 85%, meaning about 1.7 billion. The Shia population is the rest, the 300, essentially. There are some small groups too. The Sunni countries, if you want to know where they are, these are the ones that have a Sunni majority, and that would be in the Middle East, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. In Africa, there's Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Mauritania, Somalia, and Tunisia. In Asia, there's Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, the Maldives, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. In Europe, there are several thousands of Muslims in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Bulgaria. Now, these countries have significant Sunni populations, but they're not necessarily a majority. So we have Iraq. There's a lot of Shia there, but they live alongside about 20% at one point Sunni there, and the Sunni were the main ones who led the country. So there's Syria also and Lebanon, and there are Shia majorities in both of those countries as well. In Iran, there is a Sunni minority, but the vast majority are Shia, and many of them the Sunni have been killed by the Shia. These are Shia countries. We talked a little bit already about Iran. I won't go back into that. There's Iraq, which we already mentioned. Azerbaijan are also mainly Shia, and half of the Muslim population of a country called Bahrain is Shia, and there are significant minorities in these countries. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. What is Sharia? Sharia is a set of rules and prescribed conduct for Muslim life. It includes things like spiritual stuff, legal, relational, business, and familial. And there are also Quranic teachings about Muhammad's life. There are extra Quranic teachings in the Hadith and the Sunnah. And there are 45 countries and a region with Sharia. That doesn't mean Sharia law. Sharia law is about jurisprudence alone. What stands out to most people about Sharia is punishment for theft, things like amputation, capital punishment for apostasy and blasphemy. 32 Muslim majority countries criminalize blasphemy. Of these, the following 8 execute people for blasphemy: Afghanistan, Brunei, Iran, Mauritania, Nigeria, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Somalia. There's a strong correlation between harsher punishments and following the stricter interpretive schools, there's 4 of them, of Quranic interpretation. There are 4 types of application of Sharia by country. There's the traditional in some parts of the country. There's Sharia applied to Muslims only. That's the 3rd one. And the 4th is a mix of the first 3. So going back to the traditional, I'm going to list the countries where you can find this, and it includes application to non-Muslims as well as Muslims: Afghanistan, Brunei, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Maldives, Mauritania, Morocco, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. That's 14 countries. 4 of them have traditional Sharia, but only in some parts of the country. Indonesia, there's a north-south divide. Malaysia, that's also in some parts, generally, again, south. Nigeria is mainly in the north, and the south are Christians generally. The United Arab Emirates also has separation by area. There are 14 countries where Sharia is only applied to Muslims: Eritrea, Ethiopia, Ghana, India, Israel, Kenya, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Tanzania, Thailand, Uganda, and the United Kingdom. Isn't that an interesting one? The United Kingdom, traditionally a Christian country, has application of Sharia in it. There's mix. There's another 14 countries: Algeria, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Comoros. By the way, Comoros is a small group of islands off of I guess you go to the west from Madagascar to get there. It's off the coast in between Africa and Madagascar. So if you go to the top of Madagascar and then go left, you'll bump into the Comoros Islands. So continuing on, Djibouti, Gambia, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Mali, Oman, the Palestinian region, and Syria. Sharia can be found in non-Muslim countries as well. There are some Sharia law courts, even in Western countries, as well as mediation groups that Muslims go to for family and probate matters. There are ad hoc areas of enforcement as well, such as in London. There's an interesting, I guess it was a story, but it didn't just happen one time. It was for a period. And I think the police have tried to dissuade this type of behavior. But what the Muslims in a certain area in London had done is they put up signs saying Sharia enforced here. And a lot of friction, as you can imagine, ensued. That leads us right into jihad. To some degree, those Londoners who were Muslim were, in their minds, participating in jihad. Now, I want to say this: jihad is not something that is Looney Tunes. According to their interpretation, they're following God. And I don't agree with it. I don't agree with terrorism. I don't support it in any way. But I do want to tell you, they actually believe God is doing it. It actually makes it more difficult for those who are trying to deal with it. Because if they are crazy or if they are extreme, then there aren't going to be many of them. And the ones that are there, they can be discounted and we can get along with the rest of the Muslims. And by the way, there are at least 75 to 80% of Muslims who are completely peaceful. None of the people that I know or my family or any of the people my family know are extremists in the terms or followers of jihad. So jihad, again, there are about 5 to 10% of Muslims who are hardcore believers in the orthodox interpretations of the Quran that lead them to jihad. And by the way, that'll be in a different video, the explanation for that. It'll be published on the same day as today. So if you're looking for it, just look for the dates and you'll find that video. It's a video in 2 parts. It'll talk about what causes it and then how it's applied to these 5 things we're talking about. Getting back to what we were talking about jihad. A large portion of those who strongly believe in jihad can be found in Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, and the Middle East, North Africa region now. That doesn't mean people who live in those areas or countries are necessarily jihadists. They're not. There's only a small minority of them. Some of the people who fight for jihad fight for non-religious reasons, their own pride, their own ego, power, those things. But there are a lot of them that are peaceful, who are Muslims, and they don't like what the jihadis are actually doing. So that's also another thing to know about those regions. Most people view the use of violence to further religion, claiming to be a religion of peace, as both illogical and some have even labeled it psychotic. I don't agree with those labels. Those views would be based on our thinking and our standards. And remember, I said before, I don't want to look at this through the lens of our standards and our beliefs. There is a logic to following the Quran as written. I don't agree with it, but there is a logic to that. There's also a strong indication that some people think, based on history, on tradition, the actions of Muhammad and those leaders that came shortly thereafter, and also through history, of a rationale and a reason to go ahead and fight for God. In fact, there are Quranic blessings for doing so. So it's not necessarily psychotic or illogical. We're going to be talking about that more together in the other videos that I have published today. Let's switch now to talking about the people who leave Islam, apostates. As I mentioned above, of the Muslim countries that criminalize apostasy, only 8 of them carry out the death penalty. Some of the reasons for the differences will be covered in the next 2 videos posted today. The relationship with Christians has been mainly peaceful for about 80% of Muslims. There's maybe about 20% where there has been some difficulties. Muslims generally tend to treat Christians well because they're considered by most to be people of the book. However, based on how Muslims interpret the Quran and Hadith, some of them believe that the Muslims, are supposed to kill the Christians in the name of God. The reasons and some of the verses behind those reasons are in the next 3 videos that I'm going to post today. The next videos that I'm going to put up are going to be about Islam and the idea of Quranic substitution. We're going to talk about what it is. And then in the second part, in another video, the third video, is how it affects Sunni-Shia conflicts and the other 4 things, the differences that I've talked about today. The last video that I'm going to publish today will be the verses that affect how Muslims are supposed to treat Christians and think about them, and how God thinks about them. Thanks for watching.